From the very beginning, Luo Gan put in a lot of effort in the persecution, for he saw a chance to please Jiang, and to use suppression of Falun Gong as his ticket to membership in the elite elusive Politburo. Eventually, Jiang did put him in the standing committee of the Politburo. Back in May of 1999, when the persecution of Falun Gong was still in its preparative stage, Jiang and Luo, on one occasion, planned a chilling special action. Through the local police, plaincloth police and infiltrators spread the words to Falun Gong adherents, there would be a large gathering in Shangshan. Along with this, army troops were dispatched to Shangshan, and armed riot police were positioned there in hiding. Falun Gong practitioners were meant to be lured to Shangshan, where they would be murdered. Jiang would then have ground to label Falun Gong an evil cult, collective suicide or failed suicide. And efforts to frame and suppress the group could expand with ease. But as it turned out, not a single Falun Gong practitioner went to Shangshan. 3 times between May 1 and September 9, police and plaincloth police changed the gathering date they passed on to Falun Gong practitioners, hoping for better results. Nothing came out of the ploy. In the end, they had to plan their own phony shows of self-immolation, suicide, and murders. Since there was no real evidence, Luo Gan put his focus on the falsification of it. At the beginning of 1999, he ordered his followers in the Public Security Bureau to manufacture fake evidence and frame Falun Gong. But officials at the Public Security Bureau complained, since there wasn't enough time to manufacture evidence, the public security personnel had no answers when suspicions aroused about their works, so their works were impeded to a certain degree. For example, people who personally received Qigong medical treatment from the founder of Falun Gong and were healed their ailments, were hard to convert. Thus the officials had to use the methods of imprisonment, and limiting such persons' freedom, to prevent the truth of Falun Gong from quickly spreading. Jing Zhanyi was a general engineer at Handan Steel Company, and a former Falun Gong practitioner. Tianjin police threatened him with life in prison or secret execution, and forced him to deny the incredible phenomena he experienced practicing Falun Gong. The old man gave in, and was sentenced for 8 years. The falsified interview was aired in many regions through various state-controlled media outlets. The CCP made Jing's statement out to be evidence that Falun Gong was pseudoscience. Hao Fengjin happened to see all of this from outside the interview room. He couldn't help but blurt out loud to the reporter, "Isn't this a lie though?" Afterward, Hao was locked up for more than 20 days in an isolation cell, with the temperature below freezing and no heat. He later exposed the phony interview in Australia. After the attacks of September 11, 2001 in New York, counterterrorism concerns became the priority in the West. When Jiang saw that the West was keen on fighting terrorism, he reasoned that if he could brand these groups he didn't like, such as Falun Gong, as terrorist organizations, his quashing of them would jive with the Western world. Who could oppose him then? Falun Gong practitioners by that time were sending large quantities of informational mailings throughout China, exposing Jiang's unlawful suppression, including the self-immolation incident. This was perhaps Jiang's biggest headache, and so he hoped that by linking Falun Gong with things terrorists, he might in effect stop the information mailings. Soon after 9/11, an anthrax scare occurred in the U.S., when powder containing the deadly virus was sent via the postal mail. Jiang figured that an opportunity had arrived. Thus on October 18 of the same year, a spokesperson for China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Sun Yixi, claimed at a press briefing that 2 days ago, 2 envelopes had been mailed to China that were suspected of containing anthrax. And the envelopes were Falun Gong informational materials. The CCP's overseas mouthpiece, Hong Kong-based newspaper, Mingbao, was the first to cover the alleged anthrax mailing. Mingbao had nearly 50 years of history in Hong Kong, and had established distribution outlets in Canada, and both the east and west coasts of the U.S. As soon as Mingbao's report came out, overseas media immediately ran articles, asking the rhetorical question, that if the anthrax was sent inside Falun Gong booklet, then isn't it obvious that this was the work of someone who wanted to frame Falun Gong? And who other than the CCP would do something so foolish and shameful? Since Sun Yixi's remarks didn't match up well with what Luo Gan wanted, things quickly turned embarrassing. On October 23, the Public Security Bureau had to announce that after investigation, the 2 suspected envelopes did not contain anthrax. Overseas printed media and online news quickly accused the CCP of using the underhanded means of the supposed anthrax-tainted mail to frame up Falun Gong. Sun Yixi received a stern warning from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for he had misspoken, and could not remedy things in time, thus incurring negative consequences, in terms of foreign relations. Later, when Afghanistan was still much of a war zone, Sun was sent there as ambassador.